Very special good morning, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Bury Your Bookie. And we have to start with a little bit of a review of what transpired yesterday on the show, because I had this thought as I was doing my walk of life and contemplating the world in general and where everything is going from a degenerate standpoint. And we had Scotty M featured on the program yesterday, fine handicapper, 35 years in the business. And he was talking about the idea, and I agree with this 1,000%. Don't bet in anger, whatever you do. And I recall an incident where I really saw that it became just clear to me that this was a bad position to take when you're betting in anger, chasing money. You've just suffered a series of brutal losses. And now all of a sudden, now, yeah, well, you know what? I'm throwing everything, on Florida State or whatever. This happened in a blackjack game where a friend of mine, he's decides to step it up. And this was years and years ago when $100 bill was $100 bill. And he decides he was tired of playing and piddling around. He was just going to go for the gusto. We had to leave soon. We were going to go see a show. So he breaks out $100 bill, big money to him at that moment. And he gets dealt a pair of aces at the blackjack table. So you're thinking, wow, now I got to dig up another 100, which we had to scrape together. And he's got 100 here, 100 there. Gets dealt two tens. And you're thinking, you're looking around, you're trying to check out the blonde that's in the first chair. And sure enough, the dealer, who has like a two showing, pulls like six cards and ends up with a 21 pushes, and he gets nothing. So what does he do? He's angry. He throws the whole 200 back on, gets 10-5, loses on a bust as he takes a queen. And in anger, he ends up losing the 200 that he, by all rights, had every reason to believe that he should have won. Don't bet in anger. And the other thing that came up was this business about how more women are getting involved in gambling. And I keep thinking, geez, I've never gone to a casino and seen these hot babes that are giving out picks anywhere. Usually it's a couple of guys that look like they were a circus act, right? One big fat guy and a small diminutive person that's riding around on a unicycle, and you're waiting for them to start juggling bowling pins. I don't see those type of people hanging around in casinos too often, where you have these gorgeous, stunning babes who are making predictions about how the outcome of sporting events is going to transpire. And yet, I guess it's good that more women are betting. In fact, I mean, you look at some of these people and you're thinking their idea of a deep post is something on Instagram about the breakup with their former boyfriend, as opposed to a guy going down the sideline there and then cutting towards the goalpost. So be careful where you get your information. We're going to get into another example of how sophisticated sports handicapping and numerology and sabermetrics can be very detrimental to your bankroll. And I almost gave this game out yesterday on the show, but I thought, you know what? I sort of became convinced by the logic that maybe I should stay out of it. And sure enough, I should have unloaded. So I would have been better off, far better off, following my own advice. Now, if you are betting games, Bet Online is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything football. Bet Online has every stat, every matchup, even live odds as the games are taking place. All kinds of contests available throughout the season as well. When the game's over, you can go to their online casino. You can play poker. You can play blackjack, although you may suffer some tough beats there. That's why I don't play the game anymore. Or you can unwind with over 150 slot games that they make available to you. Head on over to the website today. Get in on all the action. Bet Online. The game starts here. Many games on the slate. It's going to be another exciting week of football, both on the college grid and the pros, as we have all kinds of action taking place. So we're going to connect here, and we've done it through the magic of technology. We've done it. Here's one of our favorites on the program. Guy does a very thorough job and happens to be a good guy. And we know for a fact that he's not shy. He's sending it in pretty good with his boys there from his service and his various trips to Las Vegas. We welcome to the show from Troy Winds, Troy West joins us once again. Troy, you're looking good, kid. How are you? How are things in Seattle? It's early in the morning out there.
Well, the Mariners are licking their wounds. The Seahawks got an interesting win against the Broncos. So, Seattle sports fans are hanging in there. To piggyback what you're saying, definitely don't bet anger on these sports books, but definitely don't enter the casino and go play blackjack on Bet Online if you're angry. Because I remember in my early 20s going on tilt and playing blackjack. And I remember the algorithms is something that they've got set up. My God, I saw hands that you would never see at a normal blackjack table on these online sports books. So definitely don't be angry and go to the online sports books because you you will not go to sleep a happy camper. I promise you that.
I'll tell you what kills you, and we're in the state of Florida here. Where you, of course, in Washington, the actual state of Washington, not D.C. And we always do everything half-assed and fucked up in Florida when it comes to any kind of gambling legislation, including, and we have casinos on virtually every corner now. There are more casinos here than there are stadiums and 7-Elevens, which we have a large infiltration of. And yet they won't approve, except with this clandestine deal that the governor, Ron DeSantis, made with the Seminole tribe that runs the Hard Rock Hotel. That's the only place where they have a live blackjack. All the rest are these virtual machines. And the other thing that gets me is the giant rubber dice that are in a cage.
Yep.
Have you seen that? I mean, for some
Just
reason,
so.
I'm feeling that's not completely on the level. But there's nothing worse than getting buried by a virtual blackjack dealer, usually some woman that looks to be rather well endowed. And you're watching this beating take place, like Kamala versus Trump last night. And I had a guy who got so angry that he lost a hand of blackjack. He actually threw a drink at the screen.
Like I said, just coming back from Vegas, they are going virtual so much now because they don't want to pay their fucking employees, right?
Yeah.
But it's truly unbelievable, and I'm with you, Defo. I psychologically, I'm so much more at peace losing my money to a dealer than the
Yes.
virtual part because I just don't know who's making these machines. Right? You know, I'm not going to claim to be a tech guy, but maybe he made this machine a little bit better than this machine, a little bit better. You know, I don't know. I get it's probably just a computer chip that goes in these, but I just never felt like the odds were even kind of 50-50. I mean, I felt like it was like 70-20 or 70-30 in the dealer's favor, the virtual machine's favor. So I never felt good losing to the virtual dealers. Never.
You're wondering how they calibrate the video poker machines at the bar, too, because have you ever seen anybody win at the bar?
Never,
You
never.
sit
They're
down
giving you free
for,
drinks. That's what you
yeah,
win is the free cocktails,
yeah,
right?
you end up
Yeah.
paying $40 for a white Russian or something,
Yeah.
and it's not somebody that you're going to take back to the room. So,
Correct. Correct.
all right, a lot of stuff to get into here. Of course, we have college football coming up, and this would be week number 3. And if you factor in week 0, the 4th week of college football action, second week in the pros. Anything in particular in general, Troy West, that you were able to deduce out of week 1 in professional football? I tried to decipher who's the good, the bad, and the ugly, and I have to keep reminding myself. And I got hammered on social media for one of our most popular posts. I don't know. I mean, are you inclined to read the comments that go along with anything that you put up on social media? Because it's a cruel bunch out there. I was recommending that you avoid betting in the preseason. Now, you probably had a very prosperous preseason because you are the underman, the Undertaker, and what was it, like
That's right.
26-6 unders in the preseason?
Yes,
So
sir.
maybe there's something there that's developing because teams just don't care and they don't play anybody, so they're not likely to score a bunch of points. Although you would think that would apply both ways. That if the offense, was going to struggle, the defense might not be very good either. Playing all of these rookies and guys that are going to be delivering mail and newspapers in a couple of short weeks. But yeah, I got hammered. I mean, the comments were particularly cruel and harsh. I mean, I think the number of people that call me a clown for suggesting that you need treatment if you're betting the preseason, that was the flattering commentary that was mixed in there. But I don't know. What is your feeling about that? And do you feel also that week 1 of the regular season is kind of like watching the team used to be in like week 3 of the preseason, where you're just getting a read on teams, but you don't know whether to believe what you're actually seeing. That teams may not be as bad as they looked in week 1, and they certainly might not be as good as they looked in week 1 in the NFL.
Well, well, I think when we talk about preseason, I think the only reason there's really any sort of advantage in preseason, you know, with taking the under is, but when you get to the second, third, fourth string quarterbacks, guys that really aren't going to be playing in the NFL, likely not to make a roster. These are guys going to be playing in the CFL, the UFL, the XFL. These aren't
Yeah.
guys that are going to be playing in the NFL. So the step down from like a third string safety, fourth string safety to a fourth string quarterback is instrumental. I mean, I think the third, fourth string safety can still play on Sundays where the fourth string quarterback has absolutely no business being out there. Some of these guys I'm like going, holy crap, how in the world is Ben DiNucci still on an NFL roster? Right? I mean, the guy can't throw a 10-yard out route. Here he is playing in a an NFL preseason game, right? So I think that's where a little that you could maybe find a little bit of advantage. I'm not going to sit here and tell you you can make loads and loads and loads of money in the preseason, but I think definitely if you're looking at depth charts and going, holy crap, this is the guy that's going to be playing the third and fourth quarter. There's no way this guy's scoring touchdowns. Let's go with the under. Um, NFL week one again, yeah, it can fool you, right? I mean, are the Patriots going to be a good football team? I highly doubt it. Are the Jets going to be as bad as they look? Well, I highly doubt it. So you definitely got to not overreact. That's what we say when you wake up Monday and you have your cup of coffee. Not overreacting with what you saw in week one is huge when you're making your picks going into week two.
So I may have to rethink my position then about the preseason being. I mean, it's almost like betting on professional wrestling. It seems like to me, where at least there you have some inclination who might come out with the victory. But yeah, the unders seem to be a prescription for success. Many people pointed that out. I don't know if that was an aberration. I would be inclined to believe that that probably would be a good strategy. But my suggestion that people that bet preseason football need therapy what was met with much opposition and many disparaging remarks there on Instagram and the various forms of social media where people were able to respond. Although I learned a long time ago not to get overwhelmingly affected by it. These kind of comments when I was calling a fight on DAZN when it first came out, DAZN, and I'm calling a fight that's taking place in another country. I'm in a studio somewhere, and it was an Amir Khan fight. He was already finished. He was making a comeback. He was fighting some stiff they dug up in a German graveyard. And I've done a lot of boxing commentary in my lifetime, and always felt pretty good about it. And just getting hammered as if I was the biggest jerk that ever called a fight. And then you realize, let's just concentrate on the job and forget about these people because it doesn't seem like they're inclined to be overwhelmingly flattering but when they're commentating on what's going on. I don't know if you find that but with your handicapping, if you're on social media with some of your stuff.
You got to be careful. Yep. Yesterday we had a big clunker. We went 0-3. I think I told you this last week, and we've been on a great run. I think we're on about an 18-5 run.
Yeah.
Yesterday we lay an egg. We go 0-3, and I'm waking up at what is it, 6 in the morning? I was up at 5 in the morning, and I got 8 texts. What was this shit? What was that crap? I was like, oh, we just went 18-5 for you. My God, you should have cashed out from your bookie. And God forbid we have a bad day. I mean, my God, it's incredible, but. I get it. These gamblers out there, we're all working, for hard-earned money, and we're putting it on these parlays and long shots and all this stuff. So when you come to a handicapper like us, you expect perfection,
Yes.
right? So 0-3 is unacceptable, and I get it. And so yeah, you definitely got to have thick skin because there are a lot of people out there that get this high off of being what I call a troll, right? An internet troll. They're out there everywhere, so you definitely got to have thick skin in this industry. That's for sure.
I never minded it too much. I know when a guy would call up your talk show when I was doing talk shows for about 40 years here in South Florida, sports talk shows, and the guy would call up and say, you know what, you don't know shit about what you're talking about. And by the way, your show sucks. And it would hang up the phone. And you would think, okay, I mean, if you were overly sensitive just getting into the business, you might let that have some impact on you. But you have to learn, especially now with social media, the way that goes. You rarely see a lot of things that aren't completely disparaging being said about the person. All right, so coming off this 0-3, Troy West, I'm assuming you're going to redeem yourself. And let's get into some plays. We have the college slate. We have the pro slate, which, again, tomorrow, the Miami Dolphins are going to be in action. And I'm not sure what kind of judgment you could have had about the Dolphins' performance. Most of the talk is not about the game and the fact that they lucked out with that Travis Etienne fumble. Otherwise, I think they go down in that spot, which would have killed me because we had outlined what I thought was a brilliant strategy for survivor pool players to go away from that Bengals game against the Patriots, which eliminated 40% of the country in most of the known pools, and try to pick any other game and hope for the miracle that the Patriots somehow would come out and win. So the Patriots win, and then I'm life and death to get the Dolphins home. This was after they took Tyreek Hill, and you would have thought Derek Chauvin, what was the cop that was making the arrest for the speeding ticket, are going to issue the ticket. They put the guy face down on a 120-degree pavement before the game, and he still torches the Jaguars with an 80-yard touchdown. Now, I don't know how much impact that might have had on the outcome of the game, but they didn't look great. Buffalo struggled with Arizona. The line, I think, started out at 1 and a hook and then quickly went to 2 and a hook, maybe hovering around 2. But a very pivotal game in the AFC East. If you're one of those people that took our recommendation on a previous show about betting the Dolphins to win the AFC East because the Bills might have fallen off a bit, the Patriots were supposed to suck completely. And I don't believe in the Jets because I can't buy into a team that plays under a curse. And I'm not sure that Aaron Rodgers, again, with no experience in the preseason, as much of a veteran as he is, that this was a guy that was out of football for a year. So could he not have used a couple of snaps under those circumstances before he got out there on the field against San Francisco? Maybe so. But what do you make of that game? Because Buffalo has owned the Miami Dolphins. I believe they've won 10 of 11 games with Josh Allen at quarterback in the recent experience of that series. And that's flip flop back and forth over the years. I remember for years the Dolphins owned the Bills and it was vice versa. A crucial game in the AFC East because if the Dolphins lose at home, there's a chance they get swept by the Bills, and that has serious connotations and implications towards any tiebreakers for the postseason. Have you looked at that game?
Yeah, is it going to be under 50 degrees in Miami tomorrow night? That's going to play a factor, right? Miami can't seem to play in the cold
I can
weather.
assure you, based on just opening the door and let my dog out before the show started, it is not going to be under 50 degrees
Okay,
tomorrow night.
good, good. Then
It's going to
my
be
then
more like
advantage
100
Miami.
degrees.
And,
Yeah.
I think advantage Miami. No, Buffalo to me, very shaky week one. The defense was extremely shaky. They made Kyler Murray look like Peyton Manning last week. Buffalo, a good football team. Josh Allen again doing Josh Allen things. This guy's a great quarterback. He makes things happen. But I think Miami's kind of getting their feet under them. I like Miami at home. 2.5, not enough points here. I'm not. This is not an official pick. I've got some official picks for you,
Yes.
Defo, but
Okay.
I would lean Miami in the over. 48 and a half is an interesting number, though. I mean, both these, Miami got off to that kind of slow start last week, really couldn't get the run game going. And that against Jacksonville, and then all of a sudden pick things up. And they seem to be clicking towards the end of that game. I think they're going to take that momentum that they had against Jacksonville. They know it's a big game, like you mentioned earlier. They got to get this one. Buffalo's got to go on the road on the short week, fly down from Buffalo into Miami. Give me the Dolphins. I think it's going to be like a 27-23 type of football game. I'll take the Dolphins minus 2.5 in this one.
All right, and that is not going to be one of your official plays here on the show because we do keep track of what people are doing,
Yes,
and
sir.
we think accountability is much more important when it comes to figuring if you're going to follow a handicapper than any sabermetrics and logic, which I'm going to get into a bit later on a play last night that I almost had a lean towards the Mets in a game after reading this guy's stuff, and then I realized, wait a minute, that goes against my real credo, one of my 10 commandments, which is when you see too sophisticated of mathematics involved in a handicapping proposition, you probably should go the other way. And that's
True.
what happened last
True.
night. Is the Mets ended up losing to the Blue Jays 6-2, and it was really never a contest. In fact, when I was watching the highlights of the game, I didn't get to see the game. It's always bad when you have the other team and all you see are like Blue Jay batters featured in the highlights.
Yep.
And they go,
Yep.
okay, let's go to the top of the fourth now. It's 2-1. And then you see a Blue Jay at the plate swinging a bat, and boom, all of a sudden he looks like Willie Stargell just cranks one out of the park. All right, let's get into it, Troy West, because the people want your information and your opinion. And even after this 0-3, 18-5 is a hell of a run. So give us your plays for this week.
Yeah, I'll give you three plays. I'm gonna give you two college and a pro. We're gonna head to the Big Ten twice. There, got a 12:30 Pacific kickoff. It's actually the Apple Cup, as we call it. Some of you guys on the East Coast might not know the Apple Cup. That is Washington State versus Washington. They're gonna be playing in Lumen Field, Seahawks Stadium. First time that both these teams are not in the same conference anymore due to the shakeup. The total in this game's 55 and a half. That's a lot of points. Cougars defense really isn't that bad. They held Texas Tech last week to 16. Washington's defense has not allowed a touchdown in their first two games. Yeah, granted, they haven't played anybody, but they have not allowed a touchdown. You're going to love this one, Defo. The defensive coordinator at Washington, Steve Belichick. This guy's done an outstanding job so far for the Huskies. Under 55 and a half is the play. Both these teams like to run the ball. Washington State's quarterback ran the ball 19 times last week against Texas Tech. Give me under 55 and a half. I think you're looking at a 21-17, 24-20 type of game. But 55 and a half is a lot of points. I'll take the under there. And then I'm going to head into another Big Ten game. Troy heads into Iowa. Iowa, ooh, that one hurt last week. A 56-yarder. They lose at home to Iowa State, their rival. They come back. They're minus 22 at home against a really, really bad Troy team. Iowa's going to be pissed off. I think they absolutely roll Troy in a bounce back game. That's going to be a 42-7 type of game. I'm taking Iowa minus 22 at home against Troy. And then finally, boy, the ugliest game on the card. I'm going to the NFL. The bad of the bad. Both these teams aren't going to win a lot of football games, but give me the Commanders minus 1.5 at home against the New York Giants. I think the Commanders are bad. I think the Giants are bad, but you know what? The Commanders are at home. I think the rookie quarterback has a much better game with Jaden Daniels. I think Dan Quinn's the better coach, the better coaching staff. Give me the Commanders at home. I think that Giants team's just ready to explode. People are calling for Daniel Jones's head already, and it's only week 2. Commanders are still, I think, a very good football team in terms of how they can get things done offensively. Give me the Commanders minus 1.5 in an ugly game. I think they win that one 24-10. Give me the Commanders.
They're ready to chuck Daniel Jones into the Hudson River there. This is the back
Yeah,
page of today's New York Post.
yeah.
Daniel. Man,
Hard
they
hard
were
to
abusing
quarterback
this
at a high
guy.
level. Hard to
Yeah.
quarterback at a high level when the fans and everybody wants your ass. So that's again, I'm not going to claim the Commanders are a good team, but they are the better team in that game, and they're only laying 1.5. That's a low number at home.
All right, so we have the Apple Bowl, Washington State under the number. Uh, Iowa laying 22 against Troy at home. And Washington, the Commanders, in an ugliness bowl against the New York Giants. And you're going ahead and willing to lay the 1.5. So Troy West selections for this week. Now, if people want to, I mean, you have a great service. 18-5. I think anybody would take that. Anybody would be proud to go ahead and say, "Hey, I went 18-5." So if you're getting advice from Troy West, how can other people get involved and that aren't already subscribing to your service?
Yeah, I think you can go to our website, troywins.com. Come to our Instagram. A lot of credibility there, guys. A lot of followers. We've got plenty of testimonials. We've got Google reviews, the whole 9 yards. That's troywins.com. Instagram is at It's Troy West. So come to either of those. I think you'll find a lot of credibility. Our pricing's as good as it gets, and we take care of our customers. If you're not happy, we give you a money back guaranteed. So if you buy a package and you're not happy, we're going to give you your money back, no questions asked. Troywins.com is the website. It's Troy West on Instagram.
Beautiful stuff as always. Thanks so much for getting up with us, Troy, and we'll talk to you again next week. Thanks so much for being with us.
You bet, guys. Happy gambling.
All right, Troy West, ladies and gentlemen. All right, I mentioned this, and I want to get into it real quickly here, because we do feel that the more sophisticated the handicapping information, the deeper they get into it. If Matt Damon, as Will Hunting and Good Will Hunting, couldn't understand the math, if you're having to factor in Pythagorean theorem, then I question whether you're just overthinking the situation. So this was from a guy from Action Sports yesterday, and it almost convinced me to go ahead and give the Mets out as a pick on the show. But we're not into stealing other people's material. We just bring the other people on and let them give you this stuff. He says here, and this is well thought out, brilliant logic, and therein lies the problem. Says this was about last night's game. These Mets just won't go down without swinging. After posting a 9-1 record straight up and against the run line in their last 10 games, previous to the start of their series with Toronto, they're back in the thick of the National League wildcard chase. In fact, I think they may be in a dead heat right now as we speak with the Atlanta Braves for the third spot. The surge has been more thanks to reliant pitching than hitting. According to Fangraphs, the Mets ranked 14th overall, and this is a stat I don't even know what it means myself, having been a sports fan for almost my entire 73 years. They are 14th overall in weighted runs created plus. That's small w, capital RC plus. In this period, while their pitching staff sustained the number one ERA, 1.78, and wins above replacement, which is another one of those stats that you look at and you go, what the fuck does that mean? David Patterson is pulling his weight, and Peterson, rather, is pulling his weight through this upward trend while cruising himself to a career season. The long-legged lefty has not recorded a loss since July 28th and is 4-0 with a 1.81 ERA in his last 7 starts. The Blue Jays are just waiting for the agony of the 2024 season to end as they tumble to the bottom of the AL East. Chris Bassett's profile has taken hits throughout the struggles as his exit velocity has risen while he owns the worst ERA since 2016, 4.36. Look for the Mets to stay in the groove against a down-and-out flock of Jays Betting recommendation was Mets minus 1.5 runs at plus 130. So the final, of course, was 6-2. Too much sophistication, too much thinking. As soon as you see that, people run and bet the other side. I don't know how many times this has worked, but it's almost been foolproof. And I wish I hadn't been reluctant because I'm looking at this and thinking, my God, this guy, he's delved deeper into this than the great mathematician Rene Descartes. And I think, therefore, I am too. I think also came from that cat, and ended up burying you as you were attempting on your own to bury your bookie. We're doing a pay tribute today. It's 9/11. I remember where I was at the time. I'm sure many of you, if not all of you, do as well. I happened to be on the radio when the terrorist attack took place. The first plane hit the World Trade Center. Somebody came running into the studio and said, "Hey, you can't believe this! Some guy flew a plane into the World Trade Center." And you thought, "Oh my God! I mean, what a tragic accident." Then the second plane hit, and you realized, that this was as heinous an attack as was ever committed against the United States of America, going back to Pearl Harbor, and just an outright tragedy. I hope everybody will remember this day and forever have just the most sincere thoughts. And I don't know that there's anything that you can do to change the outcome of that, except try to protect the country against it ever happening again. But I do remember being on the air and thinking, my God, this was some kind of joke in the beginning. And then, wow, I mean, you talk about changing the course of history. And of course, the sports world had the reaction to it that was much more appropriate than some other times that we've seen where they just went ahead and tried to make the money. And nobody will forget that Mike Piazza home run when the Mets came back into action. And that sort of was one of those bonding things where the sports world and the real world kind of came together and gave you at least some kind of a path to try and get your way past the outright tragedy. But tremendous response by the FDNY and the New York police. Should always be applauded for their bravery and remembered for their bravery. So we salute the people that took part in the rescue missions and the first responders and all of the people that suffered the heartbreak and that tragedy of 9/11 on this day. And happy birthday to my dear friend Leslie Visser, pioneering woman sportscaster, also happened to be born on 9/11. And we wish her the happiest of birthdays today. We hope you guys make some money. Our thanks to Troy West for joining us here on the show as we continue. And yeah, I guess it's time to get out the red nose and floppy shoes, because if you recommend that people get therapy for betting the preseason, you will be painted as a clown. I'm Jeff Deforrest. For the people that know Filter.net and all of our affiliates, thanks so much for tuning in. Much success, we hope, and go out there and do everything you can to bury your bookie.